Hello, everybody. I'm Jeff, your host, and welcome to Weird World. Today, we're going to be talking about how to stop your country's population from shrinking. It's actually a big problem right now all around the world in first world countries, especially what we're going to be emphasizing today and concentrating on Japan. Because they're a prime example. They did this article. This is back from 2019, this one in particular. Let's see what it has to say because it's got some really good charts. All right. Well, some obvious suggestions may spring to mind about how to stop your population from shrinking. Coming up with policy responses is not often simple. Nowhere is this more acutely felt than in Japan. The population declined by more than 250,000 in 2018. Wow. That's the equivalent of 3 times the amount of people it takes to fill London's Wembley Stadium in just 52 weeks. And it's showing no signs of slowing. The total population was 126 million in Japan. In the year of October 2018 is when they did the census. It's a fall of 0.2% compared to a year earlier, and the 8th consecutive drop. So 8 straight years of constant drop. Not equal balance, just drop, right? Japan's demographic challenges are well documented, as well as having one of the fastest shrinking populations in the world. Aging is a key issue there. Taken together, these problems underscore the challenges facing the country's government and raise questions about the policies that might help, including loosening immigration rules and improving labor force participation. Interesting. While Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has already undertaken some reforms, bodies include the OECD say more are needed. Now, I had to look up what in the world OECD is because I had no idea. And this is what I found when I had to go on in here. All right. OECD is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Is an intergovernmental organization with 38 member countries founded in 1961 to stimulate economic progress and world trade. In other words, it's got to be a part of the UN. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I don't know anybody who would bother with it. Okay, so here's what we got right here. All right, this is a nice little graph for Japan. Population ebb and flow, shall we say. Well, it doesn't look too good, does it? Even all the way back, I mean, they had a spike right around 2001. Of course, all of a sudden they had a 0.4% increase. Here's a 1% increase. They even had that since like 1970, 78? They even had a 1% increase in their population since 1978-ish. Holy crap, that's bad. That means that their population has been really declining ever since, really. Because that's not much. That's not much at all. And then, even for the 0, that's pretty much from 2010. Holy crap. That's, wow. And Japan's not the only one to be getting into this. I'll be talking about other countries too. All right. Now, while aging is acutely felt now in Japan, it is set to become a challenge for all countries, both in terms of managing an older population and financing healthcare for them. The World Economic Forum white paper explored how it can be an opportunity if the right policies are in place to retain experienced workers. In other words, force all your old people to still work when they don't really want to. And there's your key right there in some of that. Retain experienced workers and force them to work until they die. That's pretty much what it is. There's a key message right there. Retirement? You can't retire. You got to work until you die. It highlighted companies that are already embracing older workforces and said lifelong learning and healthy aging policies will be key. The number of Japanese people fell by more than 430,000 people, the Ministry of Internal Affairs data shows, a drop of 0.4%, while the number of foreign nationals grew 8%. All right, so that's how they're just like not much different than the United States right now. How are you trying to be able to have some type of population growth? Let other people from different countries in. There you go. There's your population growth. The population decreased in 40 of the nation's 47 prefectures and dropped by more than 1% in northern areas of Akita, Iomori, and Iwate. Never heard of them. Boosting migration could help alleviate some of the tensions. In 2015, Japan's migration rate was at about 0.5 per thousand, compared with more than 5 per thousand in Australia and Canada. Wow, that's a lot. Australia and Canada really cranked in the numbers. According to the International Monetary Fund, I'll believe them. They don't care. They're just interested in data. Now, here's the fun part. Japan. All right. Rates of population change. Ouch. But didn't it just say 0.4%? Okay, it's 0.4% of national Japanese, but it was a drop of only 0.21% because of the population of foreigners coming into the country. So even with them, but I know that Japan is really strict on trying to be able to allow people to become Japanese. Now, here's the part. This one that's ever really got me is people aged 65 or older made up 28% of the overall population. 28% in 2018 was 65 and older. That's a record high. And 1/5 of the entire population are aged 70 and older. Holy crap. 1/5 of the entire population, so 20% of the entire population of Japan is 70 years and older. Wow. All right, so let's take all these numbers. People age 65 or older make up 28, right? 28%, so it shows right there. Now, but 1/5 are age 70 and older. All right, 1/5. Okay, 1/5 is 20%. 20% is 1/5. If they're going by this, I'm trying to be able to read their numbers and how they're talking about it. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, so I should hold off on that until the next, because I think they're going to be talking about that right here. Yeah, they are. There was also a sharp drop in the working age population. So the working age population in Japan is between 15 to 64. Holy crap. So in other words, that's, wow. Okay, so yeah. So once when you're 15, you're expected, you better be able to work. Get to work. And you're not going to get even a thought process of retirement until you're at least 64, going on to 65. Then you might be able to retire. But not necessarily. Not soon. Underscoring how labor shortages are likely to continue to trouble Japan. Now, here's an interesting part. I'm going to leave that also, the upper part also still there. All right, let's look at the entire population. Composition of population as of October 1st, 2018, right? because they got all the numbers in. They're all set in 2019. They actually can see it. Total population, 126,443. We're talking about, just in the number of thousands. All right. Remember, it's like what, thousands? So it's 126 million people, 443,000, blah, blah, blah. So in reality, it's 126,443,000 people, total population of Japan, period. Right? Of 2018 in October 1st. That's 100%. Males accounted for 61 million. Females accounted for 64 million. Wow. That means that no matter what and stuff like that, there's 3 million more females in Japan than there are males. Ouch. That's a lot. All right, but here we go with this. Population under 15 is 15 million. 15.5 million, right? Or 12% of the population. Under 15. All right? Those are the ones coming on up in order to replace the working force. Remember, the working age population is between 18 to 50. America. In Japan is 15 to 64. Holy crap. All right. So population under 15 is only 12.2%. Right? Right here. 12.2%. Population, which of course is the working ages in Japan, is from 15 to 64. So 15 to 64, you're working. All right? That's 59.7%. All right? And yeah, they're having a bit of a work, shortage issue at the moment even. But then the current population of 65 years and older are at 28%. So almost 60% of your entire population is your working class. All right. So 60%. So that means 40% of your entire population are non-working. All right. But almost 30% of your entire population are 65 and older. That's huge. And it gets a lot worse. Because I can already see this down right here. You can see it right there. All right. Here's how you kill a first world country and take them out as being a first world country. Right there. And you don't have to lift a finger. If you're an enemy of Japan, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is wait. Here it is. The Organization for Economic Cooperation predicts 79 of every 100 people, so 79%, will be age 65 or older by 2050. It's 2022. 28 years until literally almost 80% of the population in Japan will be too old to work. So then the remaining 21% is going to have to be split up between population under 15 and population aged 15 to 64, which is their actual working population. Only 21%. That's not much. How can you even have a country at that point in time? You have no production. None. How can you have production? Oh, I do not feel good for Japan. Japan as of it is looking very, very bleak. And these are their numbers. This is their numbers. This is from 2019. They've known this, right? Now, Japanese women are underrepresented in leadership positions, right? This goes by country. All right, now Japan is about 13% of Japanese women in leadership positions. Only 13%-ish. All right. Yeah, I don't know why this is in here. They're not even, I mean, unless you're talking about all 1%. 38 members. All 38 members of them are only of the, trying to help out and whatever. Even they're only at like 32, 33%. Good going, UN. Really, driving it home. The country with the most leadership positions for female is actually Latvia. LVA. At over about 46% of the entire managerial employees are female in Latvia. Then comes the U.S. We have maybe 41% of women are in leadership positions. Yep, female share of managerial employment. Managers are usually, leadership. Damn, America's doing pretty good. We're ranking pretty damn high. Now, female shares of seats on boards. All right, 21% basically. France, I do believe that is. Israel, which would be Norwegian. I don't speak about Norway very often or whatever. But anyways, and so they're the highest, and I think that's Sweden, Italy, Finland. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, we're a little bit lacking in the boardroom, but just take your time, and so we'll get there, right? Now that's just it of it. Now we talk about this kind of stuff, but now we've seen this of it generally what's going on with the population, all right? Because this is really what matters right here, especially in this conversation. All right, now here's a newer article, all right, that was published in August 23rd. All right, now this is what this gentleman has to say about it. All right, now, yeah, I got it. All right, according to the Statistics Bureau of Japan, 28.8% of Japan's population was over the age of 65, so 28.8 were over 65. 28.8. So that was in 2020. 28.1. So in 2 years, it's already starting to go up. Pretty good amount. All right. This represents a dire economic outlook for the world's third largest economy as more resources are pooled towards aged care while the country's tax base continues to weaken. Exactly. And that's what the governments care about. All right. High life expectancy. Japan has impressively high life expectancy rates, according to the Ministry of Health and Labor and Welfare. In 2020, the life expectancy was 87.7 years for women and 81.6 years for men. This high life expectancy can be attributed to having some of the most advanced medical technology, years of peace and prosperity, and Japan's healthy diet. Well, that's something that got over us, that's for sure. For a declining fertility rate. For a population to remain stable, a fertility rate of 2.1 is required. Yeah, 2.1. You need at least 2 babies per couple just to maintain the population, because there's two of you, and if you only have one kid, well, then you're reducing population by 50% automatically, just with you, right? This is referred to as a replacement rate, assuming no immigration or immigration. In 2020, Japan's fertility rate was only 1.3. Yeah, it's not very high over here in America either, so I can't really say much. Why is fertility rate so low? Here are a few key reasons. Insecure employment. In November 2015, the Japanese government released figures which indicated that as much as 40% of the entire Japanese workforce are classified as irregular workers. Those are ones without stable or full-time income. 40% of your entire workforce don't have full-time income. Stable full-time income. Wow. That's a lot of people. Naturally, irregular workers make less money and have fewer benefits, okay, because there's most employers don't contribute towards the health insurance or pensions of irregular workers. Yeah, even here in America, so pension. Pension for what? Working part-time? According to government statistics, those who work irregular hours are much less likely to get married and are often unable to bear the economic cost of raising children. No kidding. Especially nowadays, and so what woman wants to be able to... I saw a show yesterday. It was on Japanese women. And it was talking about how hard it is for women to find suitable men to marry in Japan. Even though there's a lot of pressure on Japanese women and men to get married from their families, because they go, hey, because the wall's coming. And so that was a major issue, and so especially for the families. But a lot of these women are expecting these guys that are, if they don't already have assets of at least $3 million, it's not worth their time, because then they're throwing away their youth and everything that they have, and for what? For nothing. It's like, you're trying to find any male that early in his 20s who has even $1 million in assets. And I mean assets. Not a job that makes him $1 million. Assets. It's like, holy crap. Good luck. But then it also talks about how a lot of times in China and in Japan and quite a few other countries, a bunch of younger women are just marrying older men, because only the older men that actually have the kind of resources and stability that they can rely on, that it makes them happy. So then they don't think about it. So they'll be happy to marry the older guys, just as long as they get their stability. All they got to do is give them children, and usually a lot of older guys have no problems with that. So, it was kind of an interesting one, especially listening to the women and stuff that actually state what their requirements are. It was mind-boggling. Yeah. Insecure employment affects women to a greater extent than men, with approximately 53.6% of women in Japan employed on an irregular basis in 2021. 21.8% for men. All right. Huh? That doesn't even make any sense. Okay. Nope, that's the end of the thing. Okay, this doesn't make any sense. Insecure employment affects women to a greater extent than men, with approximately 53.6% of women in Japan employed on an irregular basis. But then it says 21.8% for men. Something doesn't add up. How does that equal out to 100%? It don't. Okay, so I can't really take this guy's numbers seriously if they don't make any sense. So, okay. Dedication to the office. If you thought that regular workers could mitigate the inability of regular workers to raise children, think again. A 2016 Japanese government study found that 1 in 4 firms had workers log over 80 hours of overtime a month. Over 1 in 4 firms had workers log over 80 hours of overtime in a month. That is normally 4 weeks in a month, right? Because we're just going to make it simple. We're going to generic this. That means that each Japanese worker, generally in 1 in 4, works over 20 hours a week in overtime. So if they are only working 5 days a week, highly doubt it, that would mean that they're only spending like 12-hour days at the work. A minimum, because it says over 80 hours. So then 5 days a week, these employees are working a minimum of 12-hour days, 5 days a week minimum. Yeah. There's a question about how many of those hours are spent productively and how many simply waiting for the boss to leave first. That doesn't happen. No. But regular employees spend most of their waking hours in the office. After the workday is done, they go out for dinner with their office mates or back to a company dormitory. Yeah, I've heard about those. There's little interaction with the outside world. No personal hobbies, and no chance to meet a mate. They literally are work slaves. That's what it is. There are a lot of cultural nuances at play here, including company loyalty, fear of inconveniencing others, guilt, superiors valuing hard work over efficiency, and the customer is king mentality. What all this means is that a majority of regular workers have few opportunities to meet people outside their office and spend too much time in the office to form such commitments. The good news is that overwork seems to be improving. In 2018, the Japanese government passed the Work Style Reform Law, an attempt to curb the number of overtime hours. According to the Labor Force Survey, employees worked an average of 1,811 hours in 2020, down 116 hours compared to 2018. So in 2 years, they worked 116 hours less a year, just from overtime. There's another unique culture and phenomenon in Japan. I have no idea what that is. Is a system of periodically reassigning employees. Oh, I heard about this. This is messed up. This is true. Only in Japan could you get away with this crap. There's a system of periodically reassigning employees within the organization. You just randomly reassign them to different locations. Whatever. At face value, the Jijin Ido, whatever, presents an opportunity to develop professionally and take on new challenges and helps to safeguard against stagnation. However, whatever is at the discretion of employers, not employees. Employees are often sent to offices across the country, even when they are undergoing significant life milestones, like getting married, having their kids, etc. This leads to workers relocating alone without their partners and children. Yeah. Companies aren't paying for you and your kids to be able to just up and leave and go somewhere else. Bye-bye. Another major issue is Japan's attitude when it comes to gender roles. Historically, there have not been enough done by Japanese government to support Japanese females re-entering the workforce after childbirth. That's also because there's lack of child care centers. We'll say, there it goes. There have been several reports lambasting the lack, basically saying how crappy the child care centers available in Japan are. Even as daycare slots have increased in response to public outcry, long waiting lists remain, forcing Japanese women to stay at home. They can't work. Even when they wish to progress their careers, the Japanese government said it spent 1.3 trillion yen on fiscal 2018 to increase an increase of 14% to build more staff centers. So then Japan actually run the actual daycare for children. Interesting. So I mean, there's a bunch of different stuff, whatever. They have low foreign immigration, so then we have this new one this year. Japanese people do not have babies frequently and rather prefer pets to parenthood. What a shocker. I know a few people like that here in America. Japan population is decreasing because children come with a lot of responsibilities and maintenance, whereas pets are easy to take care of. I would disagree with that statement. In a normal situation, yes. But when you have people that are replacing their children with pets, gets a little crazy. Just a little bit. So, Japan's population is declining year after year. In 2019, the end of the Heisei era, that spanned for 30 years in Japan. During this period, the country became one of the most aging societies. Major population drop was in 2010. The number of babies born in 2019 was almost 30% less than in 1989. With the coming of the pandemic, it's expected to worsen in the future. The population decline has mostly affected rural areas. Urban areas are still far better than the decline in rural areas because in rural areas of Japan are facing. This is due to people moving to cities in search of jobs, which is why the Japanese population is decreasing. The loss of living in Japan is high. Okay, the cost of living in Japan is high and expensive, which is why Japan's population is decreasing. Everyone has to work. They don't have time to be able to have fun and have fun. Okay, now here's where it is for 2020. Currently, the Japan population growth in the year 2020 is more than 126 million. All right, that's pretty interesting. Japan's population problem is due to more people dying than people being born. Yeah, that's how you have a decrease. This is because the population is getting older day by day, leaving fewer younger people. I love this. Japan's decline in population is simply accused to not having enough sex. Lack of time for women to build a family, for bearing children, difficult work styles, not being paid enough to raise children, and have long hours of work. Well, the work lifestyle in Japan is interesting. And I have heard of this part. The birth rate is down and even the rate of couples or marriages is down. The sole reason for this economic insecurity. This is the major reason why Japan's population is decreasing day by day. Because women love security. And even with the numbers I've been talking about inside this, this show right now, How many of the population of that have insecure jobs? Or basically in America, basically just part-time and that's it? A lot. And then on top of that, they have such huge expectations. Good luck. Employment security is zero in Japan. At any point in time, people can lose their jobs. Japan now has an irregular workforce where the people work on a temporary part-time basis with low income and no benefits. Men who do not have regular secured jobs are not considered desirable for marriage and hence also for childbearing. Women prefer getting married to men with permanent jobs for a better secured future. No, that's not just in Japan. All right. Remember, a bunch of stuff still works wherever you go. Let's see now. But most difficult for a man because once a woman has a child, 70% of women stop working and depend on their husband's income for quite some time. Wow. So once when there's a child is born from a woman, only 70%, well, 30% actually go back to work. The other 70% don't go back to work. All they do is stay home and help raise the kids. Well, raise the kids, really, because the father won't be around. Wow. This is because a child needs her attention, and jobs in Japan have only a few days for maternity leave. Japan has a culture in which hard work with long hours is widely appreciated. In other words, is required. It is considered rude if you leave work before your boss. People who leave work before completing their long hours are disregarded by their friends and family, let alone the government. Damn. A Japanese term, karoshi, is derived solely to describe the death caused due to overworking. Damn. Each year, several people are dying due to the stress that happens due to work. Wow. Yeah, this is just not good. Oh, yeah. Here's a good one that everyone's going to appreciate, which I find amusing as hell. Japanese has a lack of interest in sex, which is one reason for the decline of population. This is because they do not have time for romantic relationships. They think that romantic relationships and sexual activities hamper their work lifestyle and dedication. 32% of men do not like sex because they fear women will reject them. It's got to be higher than that now. Japanese kids have turned into geeks because they spend long hours with video games and other technologies, leaving no time for real relationships. According to The Guardian, the country has a lagging libido because of lack of interest in sex. With a decline in sexual intimacy, there's also a drop in sale of contraceptives, condoms, and other types of making sure you don't get pregnant and stuff, and other things. Since Japanese kids watch their parents' lives getting difficult after their marriages, they also prefer not getting married and leading a bachelor life. Yeah, why would they want to get basically screwed, when they're looking at that? It's not a favorable thing. For males, life just gets around paying their wives and for wives. Okay, I have no idea. And just paying for their wives, basically looking after their kids. Basically, you just work in order to be able to pay for your wife to raise the kids, and that's pretty much the only reason why your existence becomes that. That's it. In Japan, marriage is a prerequisite for having children. Wow. Very few couples have babies from their wedlocks. Really? It is obviously. It is also not considered great to have babies before marriage. This is why Japan's population is decreasing, because no one wants children there. Prostitution in Japan is easy and cheap. Most men can afford it for the price of a day's lunch. Really? For having lunch, you can be able to have some prostitute. Damn. Take care of your needs and you're good to go. All right. Well, then that would save a lot of problems. Not going to lie. Since it is easy and affordable, it bars them to think about having a life partner. Well, yeah. Why would you bother if you can be able to get it anytime you want? It's not a big deal. Then who cares? Okay, Japanese prefer owning pets as they will not have to spend so much on their pets. Bull crap. I know quite a number of people that are their pets are their children, and they spend an unbelievable amount of money on them. Pets also attach to them on emotion like babies and fill their lives with love. That's usually true. Japanese people own dogs, rabbits, cats, popularly. Rabbits? Yeah, I can see that. They can take their pets to work. Really? They can take their pets to work easily or leave them in the house with the requirements without any tension in their head. Lack of sexual interest forms a great reason and answer to why Japan's population decreases year after year. Well, okay, the only part that makes me go, is the Japanese porn industry. Japanese porn industry is huge. I mean, huge. Now, I can only assume then that the Japanese porn industry is being run then by, at least profiting because of foreigners. Because I thought that it was just that a lot of men were just all horny and they just went off to everything. But maybe it's just because, I'm willing to admit it. A lot of Asian women are pretty freaking hot. I'm not going to lie. There's this one lady I met. She was married to this one guy. And she confided, she was a good-looking Chinese lady. And she even admitted to me that in China, she's considered ugly. And I was like, like, how in the world are you ugly? She was like, oh no, by Chinese standards and stuff, I am an ugly woman. By Chinese standards. Obviously, also from you, I'm attractive. Yeah. I mean, obviously you're married and everything else, that's fine. But, yeah. And she was like, yeah. So then, of course, I left China in order to be able to find a, white guy. And yeah, then she found her husband. She's happy. She has they have 2 children and blah, blah, blah. And she's happy as shit. Because her husband thinks she's hot as hell. And I would agree with him. Even after 2 kids. Be like, holy crap. But yeah, so it was just odd and so that. And it was like, well, I mean, if that's the reason why, I guess that would make sense for their industry. Now, while the country experiences low birth rates and very few young people currently, there are various policies that governments are trying to come up with. According to The Economist, a town called Najiko managed to increase its population from 1.4 to 1.9. Ooh, that's actually good for them. This was only possible because of offering new mothers gifts or 30,000 yen as subsidies for child care, education, and housing. Now, remember, this is also all the way around the world and so that. So there is Greece is well known for giving subsidies. If you want to be able to live a pretty good life and be, and everything else of that, you move to Greece. Yeah, maybe I'll have to do Greece and some of it next time, because it is something else. So, all right. So there's, that's it for this. So, what can be done? How to take advantage of the situation, right? How to prosper. Well, to prosper and so that, with anything dealing with older populations, if you want to be able to make money, know that that you're going to have a lower workforce that's going to be coming up in the next 30 years, not just Japan. You're going to have less available bodies, but you're going to have a huge number of older people. All right. So think about that, and so that whenever you're trying to be able to think of good companies to try and be able to build on. All right. Older population, they're needing a whole bunch of stuff, but also your main constraint is going to be having workers. So you're going to be, depending on the situation and what your skill sets are, if you consider that into the mix, you should be able to come on up with some really good business ideas that can make you some good money. All right. So then there's if nothing else, then you guys have a great one, and I'll talk to you later. Have a great one. Bye-bye.